In 1983, American heavy metal band Metallica, consisting of lead singer James Hetfield, drummer Lars Ulrich, and lead guitarist Kirk Hammett, released their first album, Kill 'Em All, and it was a huge success. Many people praised the album for its quick and aggressive sound. It was unlike anything else they've ever heard. To this day, they are still making studio albums, with their most recent album being released last month, and are the largest American heavy metal band, and in my opinion, the most influential. With their debut album, Kill 'Em All, selling over 4 million copies in its first year alone, it certainly was a great success for the band. It was also the first time many people heard of the thrash metal genre. While there have been other thrash bands such as Iron Maiden and Judas Priest that existed before Metallica, Metallica is often credited with bringing it to a bigger audience. Many people didn't know what thrash metal was. Thrash metal is a subgenre of heavy metal that can be described as fast, loud, and aggressive. Soon, just 1 year later, they would release their second album, Ride the Lightning, which would go on to sell over 6 million copies within its first year. With these high sales, an American audience loved it and wanted more. You're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot of sales, people must really like their music. But that's nothing, because in 1991, they released their Black Album, which would go on to be the best-selling album of that year and of any other heavy metal band ever. To this day, the Black Album still shows up on the top 200 charts. The great success of this album can be attributed to its different approach to its songwritings, with songs like Enter Sandman, and Nothing Else Matters.
And nothing else matters.
Becoming staples of not just the band's music, but the genre as a whole. Metallica has also inspired people to make their own music and form their own bands that perform similar music. Some of these bands include Korn, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, and Pantera. When asked who inspired them in an interview with Loudwire, one member of Pantera, Dimebag Darrell, had this to say: "I love Kirk Hammett's lead playing, but James Hetfield's rhythm playing is truly phenomenal. He's the god of chugging riffs, and Motor Breath is a good example of tight, chunky, galloping speed playing. Man, when I first heard that song, I didn't know what it was. It was so heavy but real clean. That song taught me how to play clean, driving rhythms. I don't know any guitarist that can downpick like Hetfield, and Motor Breath is a prime example of his expertise." In many Megadeth songs, you can hear the inspiration of Metallica in its music. Here's one example. In another example that's more obvious.
Under the dead of night, with a full horseman ride, or choose your fate and die. Oh yeah, yeah. Me my Josh Green, me my pistons rouge, me bars the lead. Oh yeah, yeah.
There's way too many for me to cover in this video, not just Megadeth, but other bands that also took inspiration.
I have an announcement.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me devil satisfied.
40 years later, Metallica is still going strong. They just released their newest album, 72 Seasons, last month, and it was a success. Nowhere near as successful as the Black Album, but it still sold over 140,000 copies in its opening week, and reaching number 2 on the top 200 charts. Metallica is still very popular to this day and is enjoyed by millions of people. Their music shows up on many forms of media, from movies, TV shows, video games, and even sporting events. Their music being used brings in more fans to the band and genre, and for fans like me, it's very awesome to hear my favorite music. Metallica has been going on for 40 years and is still making new albums. They've also inspired other musicians to make their own music. They've also popularized the genre and made some of the most popular heavy metal songs today. It's impossible to deny the impact they've had on the heavy metal genre and the impact it has even today. Their music is enjoyed by millions of people, and a lot of these people discover similar bands. For me, that's how I discovered some of my other favorite bands, like Megadeth. They show no sign of stopping anytime soon, and they are still the most influential American heavy band after 40 years.
Now, is this where you guys, write, rehearse?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Right.
Like who?
You.
All right.